Having all the more difficult back springing out of the way, I'm going to move on and we'll start building the seat. I'll start by sewing this front row of springs in. The top coil on this front row of springs is elongated so that when the springs are placed, the coil hangs out to the front edge of the frame. When I'm stitching the coil down to the webbing, I prefer to use a nylon string. It has a much stronger tensile strength, and I tend to overpull the hemp string and snap knots. With the springing completed, I'll start the padding process by stitching a piece of burlap over these springs as a foundation for the horsehair, and I'm going to use some of the original Spanish moss again around these perimeters. I'm going to moisten the Spanish moss that was the only original material, stuffing material left in the chair. A little bit of horsehair right in there. This moss can be used over again, so I'm going to pick it apart and we'll reuse it around the deeper portion of the seat. Working with the moss, just slightly moistened, reduces the dust and makes it much more pliable and manageable. I've started putting horsehair into the seat, but I need to point out this isn't done in a procedural order. Because of the sequencing of this YouTube series, I wanted to showcase both the back and seat springing together. pick these intersections up here and get them all smoothed out and level. I'm going to feather off a light layer of hair here on the top and further smooth the surface out. With some burlap snug down over the horsehair, my next step is I'm using a double pointed bayonet needle. I'm going to stitch the burlap over the springs, and this top layer we're going to quilt those in. I'll push the needle through just to the point where I can catch the burlap covering the springs. I need to avoid hooking with the springs and need to sometimes shine a light on things to see where you're at. I've started to firm up and shape the moss and horsehair with a series of stitches around the perimeter here. This first row is what they call the blind row. The needle can clear the surface and we'll run it right back down through the same hole and make the knot down below. I'll use a regulator and give this an aggressive picking. Pull these horsehairs all up and work them out towards the front. Shape this edge.